Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin the Food Entrepreneur Show. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host. That's Bizzarro. For anyone who's out there, you can find us on Instagram at Justin the Food Entrepreneurs or at Justin Bizzarro. And you can now find us also at Gorilla Brave. Those links are in the show notes. Again, for everyone, the show notes are in there, the transcripts, the summary that you've all asked for, the link into Instagram for Gorilla Brave that has all the educational pieces, link to the episodes or my past, or cross-reference with academic information to show truth to the theory that we're talking about, or the ideas or the trends or whatever it is, the science. It's all there for you guys. I felt that if I was putting it out there for you guys, it needed to be in truth. So I do cross-reference it with scholar information, academia, things like that, if it's leadership based over centuries, not just the recent decades. So that is what I'm trying to do for you guys. That seems to be what you guys are asking for. As I read through the questions and stuff, that is underlying what you guys are looking for in the questions. So instead of just trying to address it all the time on every episode, which I will sometimes, I try to address it through the Instagram posts for you guys. And it goes all over the board. I'm trying to cover a lot of topics in food and beverage. So that is food trucks, commissaries, consumer packaged good, hospitality, which is also food and hotels and bed and breakfast, and even a little bit of Airbnb now, depending on how you run your Airbnbs and VRBOs, you may offer food or farming or stuff like that. So we're getting some of those entrepreneurs in the mix as well. So I'm trying to put all of that out there for you guys, including food safety that you guys are asking for and all of those type of things. So I appreciate you guys, as well as the one which I have avoided for many years because I never wanted to do it publicly. And I even had trouble doing it publicly in my businesses until the later years. But it is bringing that spirituality into your businesses and anchoring your core values to more of the universal laws of the world and not just the governance of our nation's local or state laws. So that's for everyone to think about. With that being said, I have an awesome guest with us. Someone I would consider very wise as an entrepreneur, someone that I've gotten to know over the last 2 years in her journey. And literally, I think I ran into her product I was at a thing for New York State of Mind at a market in Brooklyn, and I ran into her product and it blew me away. I will not lie, the way the ingredients come together, the goal of the nutrients and the nutrition. So as I build you up and cast you up, Mabel, welcome back from Fruhling in New York, but you do ship worldwide, I believe now, if I'm not mistaken, or at least to parts of the world. But let's dive into it because there's been a lot. I mean, 2 years ago, we did 2 podcasts. We sort of talk about your story. You're an adventurer. I think that's where the product is based. But for the audience purpose, let's go all the way back to sort of the roots a little bit and the beginning of your brand and your product. And you. So the mic is yours. Mabel, let's talk about your story a little bit and refresh everyone.
Okay, thank you so much, Justin. I'm so happy to be here and always love speaking with you. Yeah, I'm the founder of Fruhling. We are a premium food brand based here in New York City. We don't ship globally yet, but we are working on that. Right now, we do ship just to the United States, and we sell direct to consumer and in wholesale at some like luxury hotels and specialty grocery stores across the US. But we create these high-end, basically like an elevated trail mix. We have a couple different flavors using the highest quality superfood ingredients. So we source like rare and heirloom varieties of nuts, dried berries, and whole roasted cacao beans to provide the full range of minerals and micronutrients that your body needs. And we use ingredients like Bronte pistachios, which come from the base of the volcano Mount Etna in Sicily. So yeah, just quick background on me and why I started Fruhling. It really was built out of my own need and desire for something that fit into my lifestyle, which was I was trying to eat an anti-inflammatory diet after healing myself, or through the process of healing my body with food from different like ailments related to like hormones and psoriasis. I was eating an anti-inflammatory diet, and also I was in Europe at the time and found myself craving something that felt luxurious but also healthy. I felt like I was always in this situation where I had to choose between like a pastry or something that felt like a luxurious treat that I could enjoy in the moment but feel worse or more inflamed in the following days, or else living this like very like restrictive lifestyle in order to feel good in the future. So I just felt frustrated by this need to choose between my happiness today and tomorrow. And I was doing all this work like in little Parisian cafes, meanwhile eating this trail mix I had been making at home because I wanted a pastry, but it had gluten and I was trying to avoid gluten and lots of sugar. But I basically realized that the pastry chefs were using really high quality versions of nuts and in their pastries, and you could smell how delicious the nuts were in the air in these pastry shops. And I just got the idea, if I could start sourcing from the same suppliers that the pastry chefs are buying from, then I could add that to my trail mix and really upgrade this product that I was carrying with me all throughout the day. So when I tried these Bronte pistachios that are from the base of the volcano Mount Etna in Sicily, that really changed the game. Like, I realized that if I was gonna add those to my mix, then I needed to upgrade everything else. And so then I just became obsessed with sourcing the most delicious and most nutrient dense nuts, dried berries, and cacao beans from all around the world, really looking for places that have the healthiest soil. So the idea being that the healthiest soil creates the healthiest and most mineral rich ingredients that nourish our bodies. So that's kind of like the thesis of Fruhling.
I love it. It's amazing how confident and concise you've been in a good way with your brand now and retelling
Oh,
it. It's like you've had a lot of practice, probably. And
thank you.
let's
I
talk.
feel like I need more, but thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate
always. That's the way I feel. It's never good enough. I don't, being an
it. Yeah.
entrepreneur, one of the downside of it, I think we're hardest our critics, our hardest
Yeah.
critics. Like people are like, oh, you don't care about what everyone says about you or the way they throw back on you on the internet on things you post. I'm like, come on, man. I'm way harder on myself than that. So
Yeah.
it's the thing I want to talk about is for you particularly. I mean, we talked about it a little bit before, but not as much emotionally. What I think the triggering event into the entrepreneur world, the brand, we talk a little bit about it. You sort of have this, I think there's always this urge, this independence that was in you already, this from your, film background or being in that sort of industry, the showmanship industry. There's that, but there's also this desire to be independent, but there needs to be a triggering event, and in this case, the triggering event, while it looks bad to everyone and it's like scary, the triggering event that helps propel you into entrepreneur is this period where you're going through your life where you're feeling probably isolated. You can't eat normally. You have to not eat where everyone else eats, but you don't want to be an inconvenience for everyone else either.
Totally.
So talk to me a little bit about emotionally what's going on there, because while it seems like it's hard, it's actually a growing and uncomfortable period, but it's actually growth is happening towards being an entrepreneur and your knowledge of food.
Totally. That's really accurate to what happened with me. I mean, I was lucky enough to land in Europe in my early 20s, in my mid 20s, because I had been working for like since I was really a child, and like as soon as I could get a worker's permit in New York, I was out there trying to get a job and make money. So I had been working for a really long time, and I think I always wanted to be an artist and really come up with like create something of my own, but I didn't see that as like an entrepreneur journey when I was younger. But I did take a lot of different kinds of jobs, and I saw everyone as an opportunity to learn something. So I guess I was going through this period of soul searching, and I ended up getting burned out because I was working too hard, and I was drinking lots of caffeine and didn't know how to rest. Growing up in New York, I feel like no one teaches you that. You have to learn the hard way. At least I did. But I got burned out, and meanwhile, I was working in the media industry, and it was just very precarious. Like there were always layoffs, and so I was really reflecting on like my career, and I from in an early stage of my career, how I wanted to grow and where I wanted to be. And so I was able to go to Europe for a period of time, and I was doing a lot of soul searching there, reading a lot of books about entrepreneurship and food. And I was working remotely for this media company that was focused on like health and wellness, and editing a lot of classes on nutrition and also podcasts about with different entrepreneurs in the food space and the healthy food space. So it was really planting a lot of seeds and really inspiring me to think about starting my own venture or business one day. Really just started to crave that, but didn't know like what that product would be. But I was really in a period of isolation, and I don't mean that in a negative way, because to be honest, I loved it, and I loved the solitude, and I loved being able to go inward and have like just quiet around me, because I feel like that's so hard to it's hard to feel calm and quiet in New York. Like I feel like there's so much energy here, so much happening, and I which is great, but I was really enjoying the solitude and doing a lot of journaling, a lot of spiritual practices, ritual, taking really good care of my body. I remember doing like ikigai exercise where I really like did a deep brainstorm on like what I love to do, what skills I had that I could bring to the world, what I thought the world needed, and how I could make money. And so I really like did this deep dive to like find my purpose, and asking the universe really to like help guide me to my purpose and like help me find connect the dots in a way that I can build something that I can be endlessly interested in, and s- find a way to serve the world and help make people's lives better, make them feel better. And I kind of was able to like, I guess, kind of find a full circle moment in reflecting on like what I had been through and physically with these different like health problems I had been having, and also like my background in storytelling. I love telling stories, I love making videos, and I love connecting with people. And I felt like I was on this process of like really trying to build a healthier relationship with my own body, because I had kind of struggled with like some disordered eating in the past. And I wanted to have, I felt like food should be an experience of joy that was also really healthy. Like I felt deep down that we shouldn't have to choose between eating healthy and enjoying our lives, because we have. And when I really was exposed to these beautiful ingredients in Europe, I started the pieces started to come together, because I realized that these if you find really high quality ingredients, then they provide both that joy element and also the nutrient factor that really nourishes our soul deep down when you get both of those things together. So that kind of the idea of bringing those ingredients to a wider audience really excited me. And I started just getting so inspired thinking about like the different stories I could tell about the farmers and bringing and so yeah, that was really like the beginning of Fruhling, and I was in a very spiritual space when I was all coming together. And it kind of felt like I was just like a channel, and like all this like downloads were coming to me about the business. And so yeah, that was like maybe I don't even know, like that was like 2017.
So let's talk about a little bit of the then stacking together the building a consumer packaged good product. You're dealing with different regulations. You're trying to source things internationally, probably because we just don't grow the higher quality things here in this area. Particularly, has to come from very special places, although there are some things that come from the United States. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about sourcing internationally. Let's talk about getting the things that you want. Let's talk about how do you find all of these things that you're trying to put together in your first mix, because it is a venture, right? You're not sure how you're going to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been already in the space for a little while, so I was aware about different health foods. And so it all started with the original superfood snack, and that one was basically that developed from that initial trail mix that I had been making to eat like all throughout the day when I was on the anti-inflammatory diet. So the thesis for that product basically became like, how can I find the most nutrient dense, mineral rich ingredients that are also super healthy? So I didn't want to compromise on flavor or nutrient density. And I wanted it to feel like a really like generous serving that you could really enjoy and indulge in without feeling bad at all. It would actually make you feel better through eating this on a regular basis. So I basically started researching like what are the best pistachios in the world? What are the best almonds in the world? What are the best sources for all of these most healthy ingredients that I already knew about? And then through that process of doing a ton of deep research, I found a lot of suppliers, I found a lot of farms. I would just do honestly tons of internet research. Sometimes like cold calling farms in other countries, sometimes reaching out tourism tourism boards to ask them what the best farms were in the area that produced organic ingredients. So, yeah, it was a lot of independent research, but also I've just been kind of obsessed with food for like a long time. Like in my best moments, I've traveled the world and have always been curious about like local cuisines and the local produce, the products that are being produced in those areas, because I feel like they tell such a great story about the culture and the people. And I just, I'm so endlessly fascinated by local food cultures around the world when I'm traveling. So I also kind of an Italophile, so, like, I love Italy, and I've traveled through Italy a bunch, and I knew about some of the special nuts that they had, so, like, I was aware of the Piedmont hazelnuts, the Sicilian pistachios, the Sicilian almonds, and so that was kind of the starting point, and I just dived into, like, figuring out the different heirloom varieties and talking to farmers, and they recommended specific varieties. And then, like, in terms of berries, like, I was in Berlin for a period of time, and they had amazing health food scenes, so I would spend a lot of time in, like, grocery stores and at the Turkish market, and Turkish food and Persian food was a big inspiration because they use a lot of nuts and dried berries in their food. So I was exposed to, like, barberries in the Turkish market. They would make these, like, beautiful little, like, energy balls with dates and barberries and different nuts. And so I was like sourcing ingredients from those markets for my own mix. And then I discovered the golden berries, which are packed with vitamin C. Those were like some of the healthiest berries out there. So I started sourcing those. And then mulberries, which I grew up eating from a tree behind my house. Turns out they're really healthy as well and have been used in Chinese medicine for centuries. And I love Chinese medicine. So I also took a class on food food as medicine from a Chinese medicine perspective. So that was also inspiring because I learned about like the different kinds of mulberries and their different benefits. But I guess it's just been a really big passion of mine for years. And so the research was really like a big part of fun. It was a really fun for me.
Yeah, I'm going to emphasize something for everyone, and I'm going to blow everyone's mind here. I have not talked about this, and this is weird because this is something totally discovered in seminary. And in seminary, you have to look back on the writings, even since Jesus, there's certain things that have gone on, miracles, things like that. So, but you want to understand historical context. You want to understand what's going on in the world. You want to understand why certain things happen where. Okay, well, there's a couple of things that are pretty certain as someone it was in food on the level that I was in across how many hospitals, across long-term care homes, grocery stores, consumer packaged goods, especially in healthcare, because there's so many diets and you have to seasonally change your menu every 3 months. It's required, including long-term hair combs, retirement homes, all that. There's standards and sourcing, and you have clients that want the higher nutrition, higher mineral products, which means local sourcing within a 250 to 300 mile radius for tens of thousands of meals every day. You know, in New York City alone, for the New York City hospitals, we did tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of meals a day. You know, sometimes more than that, depending on if there was a crisis going on in the city or a flood or a hurricane that hit it. So then there's a lot more because we stepped in and we held extra capacity to support the city of New York. It was part of our job. We couldn't sell any capacity to the outside world in that kitchen because of supporting the city of New York. It's a pretty big deal. They basically paid us not to produce food. So when they did have emergencies, we were there. School system couldn't get food. COVID happens. Hospitals are needing food. Thank God we had the extra capacity.
Wow.
But the point being for everyone is there's a trend historically. You look at the Incas, the Mayans, the Romans, Genghis Khan, all of these civilizations came up in areas that are breadbasket areas. They have a very high diversity of food, both protein, vegetables, fruits, nuts, all of the things. And not only is it peppers to onions, it's thousands of peppers, for example, in Central and South America, and thousands of potatoes and variations of corn. So I want everyone to emphasize this, that yes, humanity grew. Yes, humanity is all born equally, but there's certain things that allow civilizations to boom. The Roman Empire had an abundance of nutrients for the brain that they were sitting on. And when they expanded across the world engineering wise, they were better fit and better raised there, not because of anything. The schooling, yes, it complemented it, but one of the reasons is there's a breadbasket of diversity, of nutrition, of minerals that was flowing into the Romans that is well beyond the rest of Europe. I know that's hard for everyone. You're like saying it's food and it's nutrition and I'm feeding the brain and that's what gives it power. Yes, that's what I'm saying. You look at the booms in the world that led to the spice road, which led to the trade to the Middle East, which led to the booming of the Middle East, which led to the Ottoman Empire, again, because of food passing through that country. It became the breadbasket, not because it grew it, although it can grow many things in the Middle East that are phenomenal, but it also became the point where everything crossed. So that's the thing. We have to look at that as we look at things. And I think it's important to look at that as our own civilizations, guys, as our own humanity. People are like, oh, history doesn't matter. What we did in the past doesn't matter in the future. Food always matters. The way it has an impact on humanity always matters. The reason that one of the reasons Israel is still a country and still a group of Jewish people today all around the world is because God gave them food safety laws in the Old Testament. Just saying, out of one of all the laws that he gave to start making humanity go through what I would call the old way, an eye for an eye, into modern, what we'll call more of a democracy, more of a fair systems. Food, timing, all of it matters, guys. All of it has led to it. And it's not like it's just humans doing it. It's something that's been passed down to us from the very beginning. We can't survive without it. And when we didn't have it, we didn't have the science. It was given to us for survival. Read the Old Testament, guys, and look at the laws there. I guarantee you, anyone in food that's done recently the Serve Safe in America will be like, oh my gosh, this is I learned this parts of these in Serve Safe. It is true. So anyway, I just want to emphasize that as we're talking about Italy, the emphasis on it, the purity of the food in Italy, also the volcanic reaction, but Vesuvius, everyone knows, that has led to richer soil. All of these things matter. And if we really look at it, guys, and no one wants to because we want to industrialize our food system and just be farm animals ourselves in the way that we eat. I'm sorry, that's what we're doing. We want to massively produce plants and then feed it to ourselves like we do the cows. And that's just not good enough for me. I'm not a cow as someone in food. So, but the reason I emphasize this also is because civilizations that boom have booming diversity in their food. And we can say whatever we want about China, but China has a booming diversity in their food right now, and they become a food mecca producing food for the world. It matters. Why? Because they're feeding their population diversity of food, nutrition, ingredients, and stuff like that. You know who also does that? The Dutch. They own farms all over the world. The East and West Indian Trading Company ideal hasn't changed since those companies have been born. The Dutch is a very small country that owns a lot of land all over the world and controls most of the food systems and the grocery stores in the United States. And they are one of the largest farm owners as a country in the United States growing food. And they do own most of our grocery stores, a company called Ahold out of Amsterdam.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
So these, on an international scale, guys, if you look at the way countries are investing in themselves and the way we are not investing in ourselves as a country, and what is our competitive nature as a country declining, but also in the way that we're feeding ourselves, you can't help but argue the things are similar. It's too hard to ignore. And if you go back in history and look at the fall of civilizations and things like that, you also look at the way they allow things into their systems, not only food, but what are they allowing in? They're allowing in lesser. than they started with. A lesser ideals, lesser standards. So anyway, that's what erodes civilization. Sorry, but I want to emphasize it to your product and tie it all together. But go ahead.
Well, thank you. I mean, I feel like there's kind of like a microcosm, macrocosm effect where if you nourish your microbiome and you give it a diverse range of foods, then you become a stronger organism. And that's also true for societies at large. If they're eating healthy and we have a diverse range of skill sets within that society, then that's going to be a more successful society than one where everyone has the same skills. So I think food is a very empowering thing if we're eating the right foods. And so I don't know, I guess that's a big part of what I see as my mission is like really bringing people foods that are high in minerals and nutrients because it helps you feel better, it helps your brain function better, it helps you feel stronger and helps you show up as a better version of yourself in your daily life.
Yeah, and I'm going to anchor it for everyone for you, because here's the thing that we're doing wrong here. And I'm going to say it, I'm not a right or wrong person. I'm a universal person. I try to be anyway. But I want to just say this. The reason Rome, it grew the way that it did and where it lost its sight was when Rome was originally growing, it was to grow the world, to bring modernization, economies, ways of better life, the Roman way of life to the world, modern technology. The number one technology it was the aqueduct. And everyone's like, yeah, it gave us bathtubs and helped us wash and gave us more cleanliness. Yeah, but more importantly, it allowed us to grow a diverse range of fruits and vegetables at that time that they had to rotate yearly, whatever part of the world they were in. And so when we try to invent things to feed humans, we need to stop thinking that we're inventing food to feed humans and just invent the systems to feed the humans. Regenerative farming. How do we make the soil more organic, more nutrient, more mineral oriented naturally to produce the same type of nutrients we're talking about in Italy?
I love that. I was reading a study a little while ago that it studied farmland that had been basically just like monocrop farmland, and then they determined that they were able to bring back so much of the health of the soil within like 2 to 3 years of implementing a regenerative system. So even though America has faced a lot of issues with our monocropping and lack of soil diversity or lack of biodiversity and lack of soil health, I think there really is potential. And there's also I feel inspired by this movement of young people that are kind of like reclaiming farming and bringing these regenerative values back into American soil.
And I just posted a thing about this on Instagram on Gorilla Brave, but everyone will have to go back and look at it. But one of the things that's crazy is if we really think about this, the way our systems change. And what am I talking about? I'm just going to use this as an example, and I want to get more into Fruhling here, but I want to just emphasize this for everyone. There's a fisherman, he's fishing, family fisherman's whatever, whole life. He's like, I'm done with tearing up the ground, mile-long nets, tearing up ecosystems. I need to figure out a better way of farming. He looks at fish farming off the shores. There's fish lice. All we're doing is repeating the problems of commercial farming on land in the ocean. What does he figure out? He figures out he can be a kelp farmer. Well, kelp filters water. Kelp grows. You can elevate it like in an aquaponic system and it'll grow towards the top. But then you layer downward with anchors and you can grow oysters on one level, clams on another level, mussels, all filtering the ocean and cleaning the ocean's water. Okay. Now, mind you, it's all powered on the ocean. The things are anchored there. They don't have to go anywhere. The ocean is free. So you just lease your 10 square acres of ocean farm. And he goes and he collects more fresh, bigger, healthier products than he ever could collect doing the traditional farming. Why is this important? Because we can grow fish on land and aquaponics and hydroponics without ruining them, land fish, tilapia, things like that. We can also grow things off land. We just have to think about that the system is what's wrong, not the food.
Hmm.
Okay. And that's hard. That bends everyone's mind because anyone that's in project management, that's outside of food, that is your business. You're trying to fix everything through very big decisions to fix problems, big decision to fix problems. If food's just not that way. Nature's already got it figured out. Nature already cross-pollinate itself to create another vegetable, and we can help it do that or help it do another fruit naturally, right? No different than dogs and cats, and we've bred them to be whatever, and cows to produce more milk, or in another case, produce more beef, okay? Those are natural ways of doing it, okay? When we start to manipulate it in other ways, that's the borderline, guys. Like, we can either help it along, the aqueduct, move it along, spread it, just bring it water, bring it growth, bring it pollination, or we can try to force it, which ultimately hurts the humans. It doesn't hurt anyone else but us. That's the whole funny part about it, is ultimately, in an attempt to help us, we hurt us ultimately, especially in the long run. So why I love products like Fruhling is this particular thing, because it's not only a product to be enjoyed for our health and our micro gnome, I think was the terms. I'm not very good at the terms, but because of the impact on the micronome. But this lesson, this food, if you guys look at the product, you consume the product, you start to get an understanding and look at the details of the way food's truly grown around the world that we lack here an understanding of in the United States for some reason, even though we pretend or think we do. We do not. We are out of touch with our food, where it comes from, how it's grown, what the minerals, vitamins, and whatever are in it. But it's yours, Mabel. So I want to talk more about this and continue to move forward.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I went on a long one there.
No. Oh my gosh, don't be sorry. I always love listening to your wisdom and insight. Thank you.
So let's talk about sourcing, flavors, and variety. Let's anchor it back to that, and then we'll sort of move forward. Because you have more flavors now than I think before. I think you've added one
Oh yeah.
variety, or maybe
we have
two.
3 products right now. We have our original superfood snack, which is the one I was talking about, that's the most nutrient dense, mineral rich ingredients with nothing added, so like no sugars, no refined oils, no oils whatsoever. Nothing except for the nuts, berries, and cacao beans. And then we also have a product called Nochola, which is our dessert inspired mix. And we basically take the same whole roasted cacao beans that we use in the original mix, and we lightly caramelize those in coconut sugar. So that's like our take on chocolate. It's like this really delicious, crunchy, light texture, but really rich chocolatey flavor. And then we combine those with toasted Piemonte hazelnuts, which come from northwestern Italy, from a UNESCO World Heritage Site dedicated to its hazelnut production. And we also add dried strawberries from California, and then Persian figs, which come from Iran, which we have to buy through Canada right now. So hopefully the cost of those doesn't go up too much with the tariff stuff. But yeah, that's our Nochola product, and that has a similar flavor profile to chocolate covered strawberries and like Nutella, but interpreted as an elevated trail mix.
I love it. And what are the other two that you've
Oh,
got on
and
it?
then we also have a dried mango product, which is 4 ounces, beautiful dried mango cheeks from Mexico. And that's just one ingredient. That's just the dried mango.
Very cool. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your adventures, because over the last 2 years since we recorded the second one, you've been to Europe a couple times. When you go over there, you find inspiration, I assume. You find clarity. You find certain things over there. Sourcing, I don't know. There's a lot there. We've talked about it a few times since. I really want to dive into this travel piece of your life as an entrepreneur, as an inspiration, as a motivation, because it's something you do. It's become part of who you are to expose yourself to the world. So let's talk about that in greater detail.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the last few times I've gone to Europe, I usually find a way to make it to Italy, and I usually have like usually try to find a way to meet with at least one of our suppliers. So this past summer, Oh, actually, it was the summer before. I met with our almond supplier. We had like a long conversation about like their different heirloom varieties of almonds and how they're being used in by different like top chefs in Italy. And they recommended like a couple different varieties that we're working with to develop new products with. I also met with a mulberry supplier in Turkey on that same trip. That was really cool because they brought us into their factory and I was able to see like all the different machinery they use to process the mulberries, not process necessarily, but just to go through them and package them and make sure there's nothing that shouldn't be there. But that was very cool. And I went to a part of Turkey that is called, oh my gosh, is Izmir. It's called Izmir. And it used to be the Smyrna, and I believe it was the ancient Roman Empire, which I don't know a ton about, honestly, but it was really, really cool to like visit the ruins and see that they had this like trade zone there where it was like tons of different factories and different industries that were all like in the same space where they had their factory. So I definitely love to travel and I love to experience the local food culture when I'm that's like the number one thing I like to do when I'm traveling. It was really cool being in Izmir because there were a lot of different like small market stalls that sold mulberry products and different forms of mulberries. So they had like mulberry juice, mulberry syrup, and some of them were like mixed with different herbal concoctions, which I was just fascinated by and brought a lot of them home. And I've been like, I have my fridge is filled with like different fruit and nut products that I've been collecting from around the world. I actually just ate some Bronte pistachio pesto from last night from something that I've been holding on to from the last time I visited Sicily. It was delicious. I would love to travel more, honestly. I'm just like I'm so in it with Fruhling in New York, trying to grow the brand here. So it feels like the ultimate luxury to travel nowadays. But one of my big goals is really to visit all of our farms, strengthen those relationships, and also shoot films of their harvest while we visit. So we did do that with the Bronte pistachio farmers in Sicily, which was such an amazing experience. It was so magical, actually. Like the day that we shot the harvest, right after the camera crew had put away their equipment, we sat down to dinner with these three generations of female farmers of pistachios in the base of the volcano Mount Etna. And literally the volcano erupted right behind us. Like we were eating outside. And it was the most magical moment. I wish we could have captured it on camera, but it was one of those moments where I think it was more important to just be present than to try to get the shot. But it was so cool because the night before we'd rented like little like small villa up near the farm and we hosted the camera operator and the sound recordist. They slept over because we had a very early call time because we wanted to capture sunrise the next morning for the harvest because it all starts early in the morning. So the night before we were all having dinner and the sound guy was saying like he's like, what is that rumble? Like, do you guys hear that? And I didn't hear anything, but I mean, I thought it was funny because like the sound guy always knows everything they always know everything before anyone else. And he was saying that he heard the volcano rumblings. And I really believed him the next day when the volcano erupted right in front of our eyes. It was, it was so magical.
What a crazy, well, obviously the volcano being crazy, but I think just experiencing it, seeing the ground level of all of it just seems surreal, right? I mean, you're
It was so
literally,
surreal. It felt very aligned. Like I really felt like that was a sign that where I'm on the right path. This is exactly what I should be doing right now. I mean, I felt extremely lucky to be around the beautiful Mama Etna while she erupted.
let's talk
I,
about building the brand a little bit because these are all experiences that tie into your brand now. Like you're gaining the adventures. It's one of the reasons I wanted to ask this question because these adventures are now part of your brand. We're talking about filming, we're talking about telling the stories, we're talking about you're building your brand in a different way because I do think it's important that we tell the story of where our food comes from, particularly when it's as important as the risk of someone buying a farm like this and just turning it into a monocrop farm just down the road. Not necessarily in Italy, but in other parts of the world. I think that's why giving this exposure to these farms through your product, because ultimately you're creating a consumer product that is so aligned with the right thing to do nutritionally, the environment, universally, all the way to the end, that telling a story is part of it. Let's talk a little bit about that, a little bit, the lining up, the purpose, the where you feel the trajectory of this is going for you. Because you have a mission and something that's been instilled in you, right? This is more than just a food product.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a great question. It's a big one. So thank you for asking me that. And I think that I think that a lot of people in America really have a deep sense of craving to connect with their food and their food sources. It's so difficult to actually get farm fresh food, especially if you're not in a place like California where, there's just lots of beautiful ingredients being grown in abundance. Yeah, you can go to the farmer's market and that's an amazing thing to do. But when it comes it's kind of difficult to find snack options that really are straight from the farm, that are available on the go and kind of help you live a healthy lifestyle and make good decisions that impact the world in a positive way when you're so busy, like, running your life. And people work so hard, and it's difficult to find snacks that make it easy for people to make those good decisions that make their body feel good, but also make them feel proud of making decisions that support a positive, like, ecosystem and supporting farmers directly. So I think I wanna help people, like, connect with their food sources and also connect with their body and to connect with a sense of joy that comes from eating these foods that are both nutrient dense and also profoundly delicious.
Awesome. What has it been like the last 2 years? I mean, I know you do markets and you push this brand and you're trying to balance financial growth and how much to invest where. Let's dive into that a little bit as we finish off the episode, because I think it's important, because you have gone through the ups and downs. You are building a brand. We talked a little bit about hardships, and sometimes you feel so defeated as an entrepreneur. But let's just look back at the last 2 years and just reflect how you've grown your business, the dedication, the obedience, because you're still here,
Yeah,
right?
thank you. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely been ups and downs, and I think the biggest challenge for the last couple of years is the rising cost of ingredients because almost everything has been going up due to, like, unstable weather conditions around the world. But so it's been difficult because as an entrepreneur, I'm put in this position where it's like I kind of feel like I have to choose between passing on rising costs to the consumer, which means that our products are a little more expensive and they're not as widely accessible as I want them to be, or just like kind of absorbing the shrinking margins as a business, which makes it very difficult to grow. And it feels like the growth has slowed because I have not risen the prices at the consumer level. So yeah, it's been kind of tough at certain points because we've been kind of getting pinched with the margins, but we're working on a fundraising deck actually to try to raise some money to invest in printed packaging so that we're just like looking for ways to increase our margins without compromising on the ingredient quality. And right now, like for the last 5 years, we've been hand stamping and stickering all of our bags, and it's very time consuming. And I think it does add like a nice handcrafted element to our product, which I love. But personally, I'm really ready to like move on to a new chapter where I'm not, I just can eliminate some of the or some of the details that go into making the product that are not the ingredients. Because, for example, like if one of the three stamps on the bag is not done properly, then I don't feel right sending that product out. And I just really want to spend my time focusing on like growing the business, making sure our margins are healthy. And yeah, really one of the first things that we'll do when we raise money is like print our packaging so that will that'll get us in a little bit of a better place in terms of scalability.
talk to me a little bit about balancing all of this right now, because you want to that there's travel, there's life, there's work, there's building a business, there's maintaining relationships with all the suppliers, the trying to keep up with food costs, which it is crazy right now. I've honestly never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
Normally it'd be like, oh, milk went up today or beef went up today, but now it's just like a all on slaughter of everything's going up and down, and not just pennies and cents like it used to on markets, like significantly.
Yeah.
But talk to me a little bit about those things.
I mean, I think since the last, I mean, despite the margin challenges in the last couple of years, our sales volume has been growing pretty quickly, which has been great. So it's kind of been just, I've been spending a lot of time still packing product in the kitchen. So it requires me to be very like structured with my time and organized, which I'm always working on improving. But yeah, I think one thing that I'm really happy about is the last few years, or last year actually, I feel like I've been able to get a lot more ahead of, I feel like I've been able to get ahead instead of feeling like I'm chasing a moving target all the time, which was like the first few years of the business. So I feel like, we've been setting goals for sales growth and production, what the product that we're producing. So we've been meeting those goals, which is great. And it's also been freeing up my time to really focus more on like storytelling around the product and around the ingredients, and like upgrading our visuals, which I think I'm so excited about because that's my background, is like storytelling and production. So I've always wanted to be like more involved with that side of the business. And so that has been very fun. And I feel like people really resonate with the higher quality visuals and with the storytelling around the ingredients, the health benefits. So that's something I'm really working on. And then another piece of the puzzle that I'm really excited about is we're building this community initiative called Club Fruhling, and really trying to, I'm currently doing like market research interviews with our customers and with people in the Fruhling community to try to understand what they love about our product, how our product fits into their lives, what we could possibly be doing better to serve them better. And so that has already been generating like a lot of really great insights. And also just really helping me like connect directly with our customers, which has been an amazing experience, because at the end of the day, like I love building relationships with people. I love connecting with people. And I think that's really like that's where so much of my joy comes from with this business. So I'm happy to be in a place now where I can spend my time more focusing on those parts instead of just like putting out fires left and right.
Oh, the fires. I love that about business. And some days and other days, I don't like it because sometimes I'm the one who accidentally causes the fires. Those are always
Oh my
fun
gosh.
days, you know?
Yeah.
So we do that. I will admit that as a leader, I sometimes lead us into the burning house by accident and then have to fix that. But yes.
Yeah. It's hard. I struggle with whenever I feel like I make a mistake, I really have trouble. I'm working on forgiving myself better and having a little more grace with myself, because I think most entrepreneurs are really hard on themselves.
Yeah, I think it comes with, well, and there's a lot of hard lessons at the beginning that are just so hard. And even when you're starting a new venture or going in a different direction, or we go through changes in the systems, going through 9/11 as a business, and then the financial crisis, and then COVID, every single time the way the food industry reacted to it, or the healthcare industry reacted to it, is significant. I mean, to the point where you're trying to move a Titanic to change the way it's doing business by the financial crisis, And
Yeah.
so it's like, it's not easy to move it, and then sometimes you got to make the decision to just plow the Titanic through the iceberg you can't turn, because you might expose your hull and sink. And so those are crazy situations. Sometimes you're running into a burning building, but it's a necessary growth period for your company to have a
Yeah.
lesson, unfortunately. But there are those things. And I think as leaders, those are the hard decisions, is what, is, making individuals uncomfortable for their growth, and how do you toe that line without it becoming a problem, or too
Yeah.
much. or forcing them to be too uncomfortable. There's a lot there. Anyone has children knows what that's like. So,
I feel
growth
like
at the cost of distance is a very balance. Go ahead.
there's a balance between like being and becoming, and it's like we
Yeah.
always have to be engaged with this becoming side of like trying to become a better leader, becoming the best version of yourself. But life shouldn't only be that. Like we need to also be present in the moment and appreciate all the growth that we've been through and where it brought us in this moment. So I'm trying to navigate that balance every day.
Yeah, it's interesting. We kind of talked about it today, but I find that if I get too much into the being in the moment or becoming, that I have to actually anchor myself back historically. Like, I don't know why I need to learn something that's from the past for the present, or I need to be at acts of service. That's just me, because I need to like get out of myself. But I do know exactly what you're talking about, because I'm like cycling through it right now with Gorilla Brave and with the podcast as we've relaunched it. On one hand, in some ways, I'm like, oh, this is not moving fast enough. But then on the other hand, there's parts of it where I'm like, oh my gosh, it's moving so fast. I have no idea how I'm going to keep up or build a structure around this piece,
Yeah.
because it's growing so fast. So I think there's some of that's going on, that goes on as entrepreneurs. It's that constant, micromanage or not manage at all. So
Yeah. But I love how you bring in the historical piece too, because I mean, first of all, I find it so interesting and inspiring. And also, it kind of reminds me of this like video that I was just watching yesterday that we shot with the pistachio farmer. She was talking about how these plants are 100 years old, and like the knowledge of how to trim them back to protect them from this aphid is something that's been passed down for 3 generations in their family. And the agriculture is just so tied in with these like secrets and family guarded like knowledge that is so there's just so much wisdom in that. And so I love that you brought in that historical piece, and you make me want to learn more.
Well, and I think there's a great lesson in what you just said is that we need to be willing to do the work, to work with nature so nature can do its job also, and not
Yeah,
try to create a solution where they're trying to breed these trees into something else, or let's just plant new ones and get rid of the 100-year-old ones, or splice things onto these ones so they become
totally.
different ones, so they fight it. It's just, this is the solution. There is a balance in human mastery over nature. And being masters over nature, I don't mean like them serving us. That's the wrong word of the word master. I mean
Mhm.
master-teacher relationships.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the idea of like co-creating with nature. And I feel like one of the lessons that really been reflecting on, especially throughout this winter season, because like the holidays are such a push this past year. And it, I found a lot of peace in kind of sitting in reflection, like asking myself, like, what season am I in? And really like zooming out, looking at the big picture. And maybe you're in a period of like pushing, but after that, you can follow the natural cycles and see that after the harvest, then there's the time to rest. The winter comes and it's time to really like go deep and go within and find that wisdom deep down so that you can be reborn in the springtime. So I'm kind of like gearing up for the spring, and I feel like I've personally been in this like deep work phase of doing like a lot of due diligence and organization on the back end that I'm just excited to like bring to blossom in the world again when the spring comes.
Well, and something we don't realize about all of it, and culturally, even in warmer environments where let's say the Caribbean or wherever, there the abundance of food is different, and it rotates, let's say, based off the sea, so they're getting a diversity of food in a different way. But in this way that we're talking about with winter, spring, where we have seasons, there's actually a natural resetting of the body that happens in the winter, particularly if we follow traditional way of doing things, food, preserving them naturally. There's a lot of things that are good for the gut in there, and the way that we
Hmm.
eat, same thing we're talking about, preserving those nuts, preserving those fruits for when we can eat them on the go. That's what happened in the winter, and there's a reset that would happen in our systems so we could eat fresh fruits and vegetables in the springtime. That's why the meats were dehydrated, and in the wintertime you could eat them salted, whatever. So there's a way that we adjusted that isn't just, oh, we're trying to survive as humans. It really, what we don't seem to totally understand yet in a lot of ways is the same energy that's in the food that somehow translate into energizing us in the world around us is the same energy that is no different that powers our car. So we do have to think about, yes, do we survive? But yes, surviving off a 79 octane is not going to be have our engine last as long as if it's on 93.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so, the argument of, oh, it's not the end of the world. Well, yet. Okay. So we don't know. But what we do know is we work better when we're in unison with nature than when we're not.
Yeah.
Even as civilizations. And how do I know? The Mayans were the first ones to ever invent aquaponics. Okay. Or maybe it was the Aztecs. Sorry. The Aztecs or Mayans. I don't remember. They're in Mexico either way. My history's slipping me for a second. But either way, they grew it on the water around the city that was built on the water because the bird flew on there with snake. I'm pretty sure that's how this all works out, but I'm not positive. So someone has to fact check that. But either way, along these lines, in Mexico, there's this very unique way of farming that added diversity to the civilization that allowed it to come in. Yes, did the Europeans come in and we wiped them out in ways, bioterrorism in weird kind of ways, unintentionally and things like that. Yeah, of course, and weapons. But at the end of the day, still knowledge ruled. Okay. And still those civilizations were built off of agriculture diversity, including the Europeans that invaded until, they didn't. But what I just said and what we're just talking about is for some reason, Europe's still staying diverse in their foods.
Mm-hmm.
So long-term goals here, guys, long-term plans. Even, yes, can a civilization still be wiped out? The Romans, the Mayans, or the Aztecs, whatever ones. I'm sorry, guys, I'm not accurate on that one. But either way, does the food necessarily mean you're not going to get wiped out? No, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get wiped out. But I would say in both those cases, both those civilizations lost focus on what mattered, which was working in one with the world around them and nature. And instead, everyone, including the European empires, got focused on the materials that didn't matter instead of the food that did matter, that built their civilizations in the first place. I've been waiting. I had planned this conversation like when we were first going to record, so the audience knows. And as entrepreneurs, we have things that come up and we push back. So I've been thinking about this a lot as I've been preparing for it. And it's just one of the things, the more I've done research, the more it is it true? Yeah, of course. You can't have civilization without feeding your population. And does a population that has more diverse nutrients and minerals for its population, diversity of proteins, different animals, whatever on a bigger scale, yeah, it matters. The Romans ate way more protein than we do. Mm-hmm. So did the Mayans. They ate what they had. Did that mean exotic animals too? Yeah, in a lot of crazy ways, they ate everything. The rhinos killed in the Colosseum were eaten later. That wasn't going to waste. Someone was eating it. Whether it was the gladiators or whoever that just killed it, someone was eating that meat to survive. So by the nature of survival, we diversified. Now that we don't need food as much for survival, we're thinking that we don't need it anymore in its diverse ways. So I'm really interested. And the reason I anchor all of this also is because I think it's your future. I think with your product, with your experience, with what God has instilled inside of you and your adventure, your ability to be behind a camera and tell a story, your product and the food is just a vehicle, but it is the main vehicle that needs to be told, in your case.
Thank you, Justin. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Is there anything, I want you to tell everyone where they can find you online and where they can find your product. And I definitely am going to have you back on as we move forward. But I want to give you time to just instill anything into the audience that you feel maybe we didn't cover, or lessons that you learned that we didn't talk about, or anything that might help them in any way that you feel that you just want to talk about or speak. It's yours.
Well, I think, I don't know. I guess the thing that comes to me is like, I really like what we were talking about with nature being really like this ultimate inspiration. I feel like it is for me. And whenever I feel lost or confused, like nature always guides me back to the path that I need to be on. So I guess if anyone out there is feeling that way, then maybe take a moment to reconnect with nature. And if you're interested in learning more about Fruhling, our website is www.fruhling.co. That's Fruhling.co. Our Instagram is the same, fruhling.co. And I would I would love if anyone listening would join our newsletter because we're really excited about the storytelling that we're going to be rolling out in the next few months and planning some events in New York to start, and hopefully we'll grow from there. But we really have some exciting things coming down the pipeline that will engage people and try to create a sense of community and bring people together around some of these values that we talked about today, like healthy food. And I think community is a really important part of that. So thank you so much for having me, Justin. I don't want to talk more than I already have, but it's been a pleasure
I think
to
I
speak
might have
with
done
you.
most of the talking. I apologize about that. But no, I just,
Oh no.
I know it's great. And I think what you're doing is great in the community stuff. And I definitely want to talk about it more. I appreciate your time, your friendship, the communication.
Oh,
I
I appreciate
appreciate,
yours too. Thank
yeah,
you.
you're welcome. And I appreciate your adventure. And thank you everyone for listening in. If you like what you hear, please share, like, subscribe. The entrepreneurs are out there. You can order this online if you're in the United States, guys. So try this. You'll see what we're talking about. I tried it and immediately it was impactful on me because I knew the mission that the brand was under by just how good and flavorful the product is. And you can taste that it's better for you. I don't know how else to describe it, but just try
Thank
it.
you.
So
Thank you so much.
you're very welcome. If you guys want to find us online. And I love you guys, and we're out. Unless you want to say anything else.
No, just thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And love you guys. Thank you for listening in. Thank you for all the support. Oh, and also continue to look at Gorilla Brave, guys, for the events and the summits that you've all requested, the networking events, all that stuff that we've tested over the last 2 years. We finally got a system, I think, that works, as well as for the education, the entrepreneur growth, and also the elite entrepreneur growth that you guys are looking for from a coaching level, from an access to some of the best in the world in terms of franchising food trucks, building consumer packaged brands. Like, I can't answer all the questions. I can't do it all. And it's hard for me to just cover it in an hour-long episode specific to what you guys are asking. So we're just going to do it in a group, and there'll be networking events with those individuals, as well as an elite level access to some of the best entrepreneurs in the food, beverage, consumer package, hospitality space. So that is what you guys asked for. So I am giving that to you guys. But thank you guys. I love you guys, and we're out.